Good morning. It's Thursday, and I get a chance to do a video for you about Awaken the Leader. And this week we're talking about vision and my why. I have to tell you that those are probably two of the closest things to my heart as far as leadership is concerned. And I have a couple quotes for you today. The first is, vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time. But vision with action can change the world. And we thank Joel A. Barker for that piece of wisdom. In addition, Bill Hybels says, vision is a picture of the future that produces passion. Wow. I have to tell you that of all the things I teach, the one that really gets me excited is when I teach vision. I love to see the people in my class beginning to see what's possible. I have several different ways that we do this, but I find some very interesting things about vision. I've stood up and done presentations to large groups of people around vision. And I always ask the question, so well, right now we're almost to the end of the year. So I'd ask you, how many of you are on track to meet your vision? How many of you are really going to just nail it by the end of December? And what I find very amusing or very distressing is the fact that there are a majority of the people in my room who don't raise their hand. So I asked the question, so are you just not getting there? Like this year with COVID-19, I'm sure that there are many people who have not reached their vision, nor are they even really close to it. If they were really in tune, they probably would have changed it somewhere back in February with the idea that maybe we would not be face-to-face at all this year. But this was not the case. We were live, and I had less than half the room raise their hand. So I asked them, I said, well, of those who didn't raise your hand, are you close? There were no hands that came up. I finally said, well, how many of you who didn't raise your hand have a vision, know where you're going this year? And there were 3 who raised their hand. The rest of them had no vision as to where they were going that year. And I said, well, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know whether you've succeeded or not, whether you've gotten to where you want to be or not? Vision's important in having a place to aspire to. A couple of things around that. When I said that, there was one gentleman in the audience who very loudly said, what do I care? It's just another year. And I thought, how sad is that your life is such that there's no excitement, there's no anticipation of what could be, there's no looking forward into the future. I looked at this man, and what I saw was a man who was plodding through the year one step at a time with no destination in mind. Can you imagine taking a car trip and not know where you're going? I can tell you when I was a kid, my family was very much into car trips. We went to the East Coast. We toured the battlegrounds of the Civil War up and down the East Coast. We went to the Gulf Coast, and we traveled from Atlanta all the way across to New Orleans and then back up. We used to go to Colorado and dance. My parents were into square dancing, and we would go to a square dancing camp, and I got a chance to ride every day. And of course, that was my dream, was to own a horse at that time. That was my vision. And I can tell you, I did actually realize it, but not when I was a kid. It was when I was in the military and I went to Fort Devens, Massachusetts. One of my colleagues had 2 horses, and she said, I really need to sell one. I don't have time to ride both of them. Would you be interested? And my face lit up. I was so excited. And I bought Lady Brett Ashley. And Lady Brett, or Brett as we called her, was part quarter horse, part thoroughbred. She was gorgeous. And when I saw her first, she was black mane, black tail, black coat, just black. Well, I bought her in the winter, and as the seasons changed to spring, so did she. And as I was grooming her and curry combing her and everything else, her mane and tail remained the same. It was still very, very black, and her legs remained black. But her body transformed. And slowly but surely, she started to get gray spots. I thought, ooh, I have an Appaloosa. Ooh, this is really exciting. I always wanted one of those. Well, she wasn't quite an Appaloosa. She was definitely a dappled gray, and her entire coat was this dappled gray color. She was gorgeous. She also was a little trickster. She liked to try and rub me off the saddle as we would ride by a tree. She also had several adventures in terror, to be exact. One, we were riding early in the morning, and we knew that the reservists were out, and thought, if the flag's up, we'll go a different way. If it's not, we'll go through the range. Well, the flag wasn't up. So Brett and I started across the range, and I could hear the range master off to the side going, ready on the left, ready on the right, ready on the firing range. And I stood up in my saddle and waved and screamed. And then I heard, hold your fire, the range is not clear. Hold your fire, the range is not clear. Well, I rode around and got back to them, and I said, Sergeant, what were you thinking? And he said, well, ma'am, we did everything we were supposed to. I said, well, there's a major thing missing. You forgot the red flag that tells everyone that the range is being used. Well, he turned bright red, the color of the flag actually, and profusely apologetic. However, I did have to go to the base commander, and they were banned from the post for 2 months because of that. And think about it, they could have injured a whole bunch of kids, because our dependents oftentimes rode the horses and would take them through that range as well. They also looked for the flag. So I got to have my vision. And I had Brett for about 9 months before I was transferred, and I couldn't take her with me. It wasn't safe for her to be in Alabama. It was really sad, and I haven't had a chance to relive that dream or to reincorporate it into my life. But horses are still a very, very strong part of who I am, and that vision of what I love to do. So you can have a vision that was from long ago and far away that still stays in your vision letter every year, because it's something you still want to have, and you're working towards it slowly but surely. And like I said, I did actually achieve it, and I was so, so thrilled. So every year I do 2 things. One is I name my year. So this year was 2020, the year of clear vision. And I have to say that, yes, it was. And that clear vision changed with COVID-19. I could keep some things in it. I could still work with my folks. I could still coach, mentor, train, but I couldn't do it in person. I couldn't do it kneecap to kneecap. And that, to be honest with you, has made this year a bit sad for me, because I really enjoy being able to hug someone, to give them a high five and actually slap hands, to do whatever it is that you do when you get together with your friends. Have a meal. I mean, I have so many friends that we sit down at least once a month and have dinner and catch up. And needless to say, we haven't done that as much this year. And for that, I regret it. So vision is critical. It's critical to knowing, where am I going and how am I going to get there? Let's go back real quickly to my trips as a child. My parents went to AAA every year, and they got what was known as a triptych. And in it, it had the route of where we were going, where we were staying every night, how long we were going to be there, what was our next stop, what were some of the things that we could see at any one of those stops, so that we had a sense of what battlegrounds are there, what other cities are there, what can we see here. And for my mom, this was really, really important because she loved the Civil War. She loved the battlegrounds of the Civil War. She read every book she could on the Civil War. And so as we went through the battlegrounds, she was in seventh heaven. Something else my mom really loved was to go to really old churches and to see what was the oldest gravestone in the church. And I've sort of carried that forward a little bit. When we went to Massachusetts, we went to the town of Billerica, Massachusetts, and my husband's family founded the town of Billerica back in the 1600s. There's actually a town charter, and we could find the brothers' names on it, as well as their stamp on the leather. It was really, really heartwarming to see this. And then we went to the cemeteries. And what's interesting is the brothers are actually buried in separate cemeteries. And not only did we look for their gravestone, but we also looked to see, were there any that were older than their gravestones? It was just a very memorable time. And that's what I remember about our trips, is the fact that we always have a vision. We have a roadmap as to where are we going and where do we want to end up. And that's what your vision is all about. Where do you want to end up? Where is it that you want to see your life become? Now, vision isn't only in your business. I mean, that's a great place to have it. You know, how many sales do you want? How many clients do you want? How many courses do you want to have taught? How many Facebook Lives do you want to do? All of that good stuff. There are those kinds of goals to have, but there are other visions to include in that. How do you want your family to be? How do you want to be with them? Do you want to be a stay-at-home mom? Do you want to be a stay-at-home dad? Are your children off on their own? How often do you want to be able to visit them and to visit your grandchildren? Where are you religiously or spiritually? How do you want to improve that practice? Where would you like to be again at the end of the year? Looking at finance, that's something I think we all do to some degree. We look at our budget. How much money do we need to come in order to pay our bills? How much money do we need to have come in order to finance what our retirement will look like? And to be able to set those visions. This is what I see. And then from that, you can set goals on a monthly basis as to how much needs to come in. What do you need to do in order to make that happen? You can also look at your health. Where do you want to be weight-wise? Where do you want to be exercise-wise? How strong do you want to be? Those kinds of things. How flexible would you like to be? Those are all part of your vision. I also look at, where do I want to be educationally? What do I want to have learned this year? What courses do I want to take? What gurus do I want to been involved in? Those kinds of things. So I have a pie chart. It also gives me a sense of, where are my priorities? And are my priorities in the right place? Or do I need to make some shifts in the wedge that various things have in my pie? When I finally figure out what all of that looks like, I write myself a letter. And it's, Dear Linda, and I write out where I am on December 31st, 2020 in this case, as far as my career, my finances, my health, my spirituality, my education, my family, my friends. And I write it as though it has already happened. This is what I'm seeing. This is what's happened. This is how excited I am about it. And I read that letter out loud to a colleague so that I share that information with someone else. And then every quarter, I pull it out, I take a look at it, and I get a sense of, how am I doing? Am I moving along the path that will get me there by the end of the year? And I love when I can see that I'm getting closer in each step, and knowing that when I get to that vision, it's not the end, it's the beginning of something new, and that I can move on. I can have a bigger vision. I can have a different vision. One of the things that my husband and I have always wanted to do was to move to Dornoch, Scotland. That's been on our vision board for a very, very long time. And unfortunately, due to his health, we probably won't make it a place to live. But it still sits there, and we still go visit. We just probably will not live there, and it's okay. Visions do change. They do morph as life moves on, as things like COVID show up and really truncate what you thought you were going to do this year. But as I say in leadership, you need to be agile. You need to be able to pivot when things come your way that you didn't expect. So this is my why. My why is to really work with leaders who are struggling, who feel that they're challenged by their leadership, whether it's because they've always been in command and they're realizing that it's not what's working in today's world, but they don't know how to shift to influence without feeling that they're betraying their command. And so I encourage them to blend the two, to begin to embrace confluential leadership. And what I'm all about and why I'm doing this is because I firmly believe that when we shift into that leadership model and we embrace it and we use it, and it just becomes how we do things, how we ask questions, how we are just curious about things, you can gain so much more from the people who work with you, with the friends that you have, the family that you enjoy, and your life will be so much richer when you incorporate curiosity and excitement into your life. So with that, I thank you for being here today, and look for our video tomorrow with the whole team, and we'll be talking about vision there as well. So until next time, just remember, be courageous and dare to lead. Bye-bye.